Now let us consider a few historical episodes that are very dear to the hearts of the decolonizers. Let's start with 1857, the mutiny, or as the nationalist leader Vinayak Damodar Savarkar called it, the First War of Independence. As you know, it started with the protest of both Hindu and Muslim soldiers against the violation of their religious taboos, where they had to bite off military equipment that was covered in either pig's fat or cow's fat, or at least so they believed. So this already had nothing in principle to do with decolonization, though it may have something to do with resentment against the colonizers' insensitivity to their own religious conventions. So from a distance it may have had something to do with decolonization. Then most people in India were not ready for this revolt. And indeed most people did not participate. Many regions did not participate at all. In other regions, many people lied low, tried to see who was winning. And so the real active participation was fairly limited. In some famous cases also, it was motivated by other things than decolonization, like the Rani of Jhansi certainly played a very courageous role. But in her case, for instance, certain dynastic considerations, certain dynastic resentments against British decisions played a more important role than any concern for national independence. One nice thing from the Indian nationalist viewpoint about the mutiny was the cooperation between Hindus and Muslims. It already started with the above-mentioned resentment against cow's fat or pig's fat used in their military equipment. And then it went on. Both Hindus and Muslims were fighting. Hindus thought they were restoring the Peshwa Empire. And Muslims thought they were restoring the Mughal Empire, symbolized mostly by the choice of the last Mughal emperor as the figurehead of the whole rebellion. Not that he desired the rebellion. You see, he was living a comfortable life on his British pension, but suddenly he was thrown into this historical role. And often it happens that people are thrown into a historical role, yet in this case it was fated to end negatively. And you could have foreseen it if you studied the rebellion candidly, without the usual nationalist prejudice. The cooperation between Hindus and Muslims in the mutiny was something of a mutual deceit. You see, the Mughal Empire was precisely the force that defended itself against the Peshwas. And the Peshwas had been the force that broke the back of the Mughal Empire. So a moment of alliance in war against a common enemy was possible, but after that it would not have lasted. So from the viewpoint of Hindu-Muslim unity, it was very good that the Indians lost the mutiny, that they were defeated. Something else that the mutiny did, it was the decisive factor in the creation of Sikhism as a separate religion. Well, I think that the characteristics of Sikhism still make it into one sampradaya, one sect of Hinduism, but nevertheless it has acquired the status of a separate religion. Now that is mostly due to the mutiny. You see, the Mughals had been gradually brought into the British atmosphere, and they were not experienced in fighting the British. The Peshwas too had been fighting the British quite some time ago. None of the fighters from back then were still alive, were still active. So they took their chance, whereas the Sikhs had only just been defeated by the British. You see, this was some time after Ranjit Singh. Ranjit Singh was a powerful ruler and militarily capable. So the British, who were very far from home, realized, we should wait our time, wait until he dies, and then we can strike. And that is what they did. On the other hand, Ranjit Singh himself had no illusions. He said, you see, I can hold out for some time, but ultimately, as he said before a map of India, where the British domains were marked in red, he said, Sab lal ho jayega. It will all turn red. It will all turn British. And so sometime after his death, the British struck and defeated the Sikhs. Now the Sikhs knew very well the power of the British. Not that they themselves were so powerful, but they were very good at manipulating one Hindu group against another, one Indian group against another, and therefore they were sure to conquer all of India. The mutineers were under the illusion that they could defeat the British. Now, the Sikhs also had the Mughal Empire as their hereditary enemy, and therefore it was fairly natural for them to side with the British. They were more powerful, and anyway, they were the enemy of the enemy, which was the Mughal Empire. So, what the Sikhs did was, they saved quite a few British lives. You see, militarily their role was not decisive, but for the concrete British soldier, it was very good to know that some cantonment where his wife and his children were living was being liberated by the Sikhs from a siege by the mutineers. Therefore, the British were very grateful to the Sikhs, not just as a matter of political calculation, but there was a heartfelt sympathy. And so it is then that they decided to turn Sikhism into a separate religion and supported all efforts by Sikhs to this effect. Now, I am not so enthusiastic about this move within the Sikh community, and I wonder if you people are. So I think the mutiny was not an entirely good event in Indian history. Though I understand that the secularists find it great. You see, a great potential for Hindu-Muslim conflict was avoided by their defeat, and the rise of the Sikhs as a separate community, thereby breaking away from Hinduism, weakening Hinduism, is also very much applauded by the secularists. But from a real nationalist viewpoint, I don't think it is such a great event.